You know that feeling, right? That moment a switch just flips and all of a sudden you're completely swept away by this wave of anger or frustration. And then later, maybe hours later, you look back and think, what on earth just happened? That feeling of being totally hijacked by your own emotions, well, that's exactly what we're going to tackle today. We're diving into a really powerful method from Eckhart Tolle for getting a handle on what he calls the aggressive ego. And it all starts with this question, one that so many of us have. My ego just takes over. It comes out of nowhere. How can I catch it sooner? It's that classic, frustrating feeling where the real you, the calm you, only seems to show up after the emotional storm has already passed. So, let's figure this out. So here's our game plan. First, we're going to look at what's actually happening. We'll call it the unseen takeover. Then we'll map out the path to presence and see why awareness is literally the perfect antidote. And finally, we'll get practical. How do you actually cultivate this presence? We'll even use a simple practice with nature as our guide. All right, first things first, before you can solve a problem, you've got to understand it, right? So what exactly is this aggressive ego that feels like it's running the show? And what's really going on under the hood when you get triggered? Okay, this is the core idea from Tolle, and it's a big one. The real issue isn't the anger or the frustration itself. The problem is the unconsciousness. It's the fact that we become so completely identified with that feeling, we don't even realize we've been taken over until it's too late. So let's be clear about what the ego is. It's not some evil monster hiding inside you. Tolle defines it as just a pattern, a mental and emotional pattern. And here's its secret weakness. It only has power over you as long as you are completely unaware of it. You could say the ego thrives in the darkness of unconsciousness. Now for the good news. You don't have to go from 0 to 100 on this overnight. Becoming more aware, more present is a gradual journey, and it happens in these really clear, recognizable stages, which is actually super reassuring. So just think about it. Where are you on this path right now? Maybe you only realize you got totally hijacked by your ego hours or even days later. Hey, that's stage 1. That's the start. But as you practice, that time gap gets shorter and shorter. You start catching it minutes later, then seconds. The next big leap is realizing it while it's happening. And the final stage, you can actually sense the pattern just as it starts to bubble up. Every single one of these steps is huge progress. So what's the big deal about awareness? What actually happens when it shows up in that heated moment? Why is it such a game changer? Well, it's because the entire dynamic shifts. You go from being a prisoner of your reactions to being the observer of them. Let's break this down. When the ego is in charge, it's a complete takeover. You don't just feel angry, you are the anger. There's no space, no daylight, and definitely no choice. But the moment awareness comes in, everything changes. You're no longer the anger, you're the one seeing the anger. You become the space around it. And in that little bit of space, for the first time, a choice becomes possible. And Tolle just says it perfectly here. The simple act of you noticing the pattern dissolves its power. I mean, the old pattern might still pop up, but because you, the conscious you, are now present, it's just not the same. It doesn't own you anymore. And this, right here, is the ultimate payoff. This is what we're after. Presence gives you that critical pause, that tiny little gap between the trigger and your response. That moment is everything. It's where you stop being a robot run by old programming and start being able to consciously choose a different way to respond. So if awareness is the magic key, how do we get more of it? Well, you can't just wait for a hurricane to learn how to sail. You have to practice when the waters are calm, so that strength, that presence is there when you really need it. And the practice itself is so beautifully simple. You just invite presence into the ordinary moments of your life. When you're walking, just feel your feet hitting the pavement. When you look at the sky, just look, without needing to name the types of clouds. When you see a flower, just really see it. It's all about being in this state of alert attention, without that constant narrator in your head labeling everything. And Tolle is super clear on this point. Trying to find presence for the first time in the middle of a big argument is like trying to learn how to swim during a tsunami. It's just not going to work. You have to build that presence muscle proactively, day by day, in the quiet, easy moments. Okay, so let's wrap up with a simple, concrete practice you can literally start today. It involves letting one of the greatest teachers of presence we have, nature itself, show you the way. It starts this simply. Just find a flower. It could be in your garden, in a vase on your desk, even a picture on your phone. Just look at it.
But what does that really mean, to truly see it? Come on, it's way more than just a quick glance. It's about perceiving it on a much, much deeper level. Here's the actual practice. For just a moment, drop the mental label. Drop the word rose, or daisy, or tulip. That word, Tolle says, is a screen of conceptualization. Your goal is to look through that screen, past the concept, and see the actual thing itself, as if you've never seen one before in your life. You know, there's that beautiful quote from The Little Prince that says, "All that is essential is invisible to the eye." That's exactly what we're looking for here. There's an essence to the flower, a life, a vibrant presence that goes way beyond just its physical shape and color. It's something you have to feel, not just see with your eyes. And this is where it gets really profound. As you do this, you don't just perceive this aliveness out there in the flower. You start to feel a little echo of it, a resonance inside yourself. You begin to realize that the animating spirit, that consciousness, is the same in you as it is in the flower. It's a tiny moment of recognizing that we're all connected. So by giving the flower your complete, non-judgmental attention, it actually reflects back to you the very qualities you're trying to cultivate. In its own way, the flower teaches you about stillness. It teaches you about presence. It becomes your guide. So I'll leave you with this question. Your flower doesn't have to be a literal flower, of course. It could be the sky outside your window, a tree you pass every day, the taste of your morning coffee, or the feeling of warm water on your hands. What small piece of your world will you choose to truly connect with today, without labels, and just practice being present?